Okay.
Yeah, start with an introduction, Dave, and then we'll let's roll from there.
Yep, absolutely. Can you see the presentation? Oh, it's a bit slow there.
Yes.
Okay. So thanks, Andy, for inviting me. So my name is Dave Lapsley. I'm an OpenStack Quantum developer at Nicira Networks in Palo Alto. And I put together just a brief tutorial. It's really aimed at how to set up Quantum and DevStack. That's something that I do a lot of as part of my development work. And so there are a few tips to getting things up and running, a few tips and tricks that I kind of picked up on the way. And so hopefully these are useful for people for both single and multi-node. So the single node stuff I can show you today, I can give you a demo of that and show you how to set all of that stuff up. And then also the multi-node, I'm still working on some stuff for that. So I'm kind of working on patches to send out to DevStack so that people will be able to get access to all of this stuff. So can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. Alrighty. Okay, so there's a bit of latency. Oh, not too bad. Okay, about 5 seconds latency. So I'll just touch on the overall architecture, where we are in Quantum and the networking side of things in the OpenStack architecture. I want to go briefly through the sequence that's involved in launching an instance and what the communication path is, just because it's kind of useful to understand where networking comes into play. I know that we talked about, well, there was some presentation on DevStack earlier this morning, so I'm just going to touch on that for about 30 seconds, just to show where to go and how to get started and some important things from the DevStack, at least from my perspective, from the development perspective. And then I'll talk about the single node and the multi-node development deployments using DevStack, and I'll be using the OVS plugin as the example in this case. That's something that I've been working on quite a bit recently. There's the VLAN-based OVS plugin, and there's also the tunneling-based OVS plugin that we just released last week, or we just had merged last week. And then just finish off with some tips and tricks. Okay, so this is the Nova Quantum architecture that we all know and love, and so there we are down in the bottom right-hand corner there. So Quantum is a network manager, and so you basically fire it up by pointing Nova Network in the configuration file to that Quantum manager as the networking component there. And then all of the networking calls will go to Nova Network and then through Quantum manager to the various plugins. So here's a very high-level view of what goes on when you launch a VM instance, and I borrowed this from a really nice blog post, and the reference is down in the bottom right there. It goes into a lot of detail, or a bit more detail about this, which is kind of nice. So if you want more detail, you can have a look there, or you can look through the code as well to see how all of that works. So you have the user on the left there, and they send a request into the API. They want to, they basically want to run an instance. So they go through authentication, and then the call goes into the cloud controller there. So the cloud controller then sends the message to the schedule to decide which host this instance is going to run on, and then it sends a command to that host. So then the compute worker, so that's number 4 here. So we've got the command going to the compute worker, that it wants to start up an instance. So the compute worker then fires back a command into the cloud controller, which ends up with the network controller. There's a function within all of the network controllers called allocate for instance, and there's a deallocate for instance. So allocate for instance sets up all the networking functionality for that particular instance. And so that's kind of like the bootstrapping layer, the very first part of the network connectivity for that particular node. And then you get the response coming back to the compute worker. And that's pretty much it. So over on the right there, you can see the network controller, the Quantum manager. So that is embedded, and that runs within the context of the cloud controller. And so then within that, we have that will talk when Quantum manager is selected. There's code within that network controller that actually calls out to the Quantum service, which is a separate service that's running, and that Quantum service is responsible for making appropriate calls through plugins to to the networking layer using one of the many different plugins that we have.
When you say cloud custodian, you mean the Nova API?
Node API, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Thank you. Yes, that's it, exactly. Okay, so DevStack in 30 seconds. DevStack.org, you go there, you clone devstack.git, and you get this repository that has all of these nice scripts and configuration files. You go in there, you cd into the DevStack directory, and you run stack.sh, and it sets everything up, and it's in default configuration. So a very, very nice tool. Some of the important files, so local RC, where you have to set the node settings, and so I'll go into more detail in a little while, but in particular, you set things like what services are running on this particular node, where you go, if services are running on other nodes, you can actually set the IP addresses for those other nodes, and you can point the local services to those remote services. And there's a bunch of other configuration settings that I'll go through. StackRC is really important because that's where all of the information about where to pull the sources from. So which repos to pull from, what branch you want to pull from, and then also where you download the VM images. It's nice that you're able to specify which branch you're in there. That gives you a little bit of control over what particular version of software you're running, or which version of the repos you're running. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, sure. Sorry, guys. So DevStack is a really neat tool. So if any of you guys, I presume a lot of people here have worked on deploying OpenStack. There's a lot of moving parts. It takes a lot of effort to do it if you haven't done it in an automated way. Or
just for giving that doesn't know what DevStack is, you probably get this.
Okay.
If anybody has no clue what DevStack is, please speak up right now. Or needs at least an overview.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll put to the 30 seconds. Okay. Yeah, very useful. So one of the things that I found really useful about DevStack is actually in the tools directory, info.sh. It actually captures all the system information. So it captures the Git project, branch, and commit, which is really useful if you want to have reproducible setups, because we know that at certain times of the year, there's a lot of code churn, code change. And so if you want to reproduce, if you want to be able to reproduce stable setups and revert, then it's important to know, which versions of commits you're on and that sort of thing. So tools info.sh is really useful for capturing that information so you can baseline your configurations. Okay, so now I'll talk about the single node DevStack and Quantum development deployment using the ODS plugin. So this is the development server. So for a single node, you're running all the services on the development server. So I'm just showing a couple here. So we have the Nova network in the top left there, and that's got the Quantum Manager code in it that's actually calling out to the Quantum service, which is over here. So the Quantum service is sitting there listening for commands that use the Quantum API. And then it takes those commands and it feeds them into the Quantum plugin. And then the Quantum plugin, depending on what that happens to be, it could be could be the ODS plugin, it could be one of the Cisco plugins, it could be the plugin had merged them recently. Any of these plugins then go off and talk to the networking backend, and basically do the conversion between the logical topology and the actual physical network. So the ODS plugin is really simple, and it's pretty amazing the functionality that's in it, given that it's only a couple of hundred lines of code. It's really not that much code, and it allows you to do quite a bit. And I think that's just a testament to the overall architecture, the fact that we can leverage stuff like ODS and so on. So basically, we have calls coming from OpenStack proper through the Nova network, Quantum Manager, over to the Quantum service here, which is then going to communicate with the Quantum agent. Now, we have a very simple communication mechanism, and that's just a single shared database. Yeah, Adam really loves that. Adam, of course, it's really simple, but for a scalable solution, you want something that's a bit more sophisticated than that. Yeah, scalable. And there are a number of places where you can go to get a very good scalable solution. So So here, so here we have the shared database, and we have a Q agent, which is running on any of the compute nodes. And so the quantum agent here basically pulls its config, it's polling the database, and it's pulling the configuration down and going, yes, I know. Look, try doing something more sophisticated, a couple of hundred lines of code, and we'll see. So it's polling the database periodically and then updating its configuration based on the information that it gets there. And so then it configures, if there are any changes to the configuration, it updates OVS, Open vSwitch, which is running on your hypervisor node, to basically modify the network topology. So quantum agent is typically on the same box as the OVS that it's running. So here's a single deployment, so everything's running on the same box. In a second, I'll show you what a multi-node deployment looks like. So with the OVS plugin, you have a single integration bridge, which is the VRS here. So when the VMs come up, all of their virtual interfaces are plugged into this integration bridge. And then the quantum agent through OVS configures its flows so that it'll map each one of these bits to the appropriate VLAN. And that gives you the separation between the different networks. So each network has its own VLAN, and by mapping the bits to these separate VLANs, you physically separate the traffic by the time it goes out on the physical mix there. Okay, so that's what the configuration. That's what the configuration looks like. Here are some of the things that might be useful if you're planning to do this redevelopment using DevStack. So the first thing, which is a bit of a gotcha, is that the default VM images that come with DevStack, they don't support multiple images. So if you want to, multiple interfaces, thank you. They don't support multiple interfaces. So if you want to fire up your virtual machines and have, multiple interfaces and nice, rich topologies, you can't really do that with the default ones. So I've submitted a patch. It's sitting on Launchpad at the moment. I haven't had a chance yet to submit it for review for DevStack, but I will. And basically, that's just an addition to the stack.sh that will pull down some images that we had built for Quantum a while ago. And this is, again, just for development. And these images will come up just fine. So they'll download and fire up stack.sh. They'll download these images, and then they'll fire up, and their network interfaces will come up clearly. I've also been working on a script called Quantum.sh with Debo, and that's currently going through review. And so this script is really useful from a testing point of view. I use it every day. Basically, what it does is it'll hopefully live in the exercises directory of DevStack. You run it, and I'll actually show you what it looks like in a minute. You run it, and then it goes and it's basically bootstrapping an entire system. So once you have your stack running, it'll go and create users, it'll create tenants, it'll create networks, both private and public, and then it'll actually create virtual machines that'll connect into those networks, and you can log into those virtual machines and test connectivity and experiment. So hopefully that's something that will be useful to other people. I mentioned that we're using the OVS plugin here. So it has some really nice features. We talked about the scalability issues. That's just part of the course, I think. One of the gotchas there is in the basic mode where it's using VLAN. If you're doing the development in a virtualized environment, not all of the virtualized environments will be nice to your VLAN tags. And so we had some problems with VLAN tags getting stripped, which kind of messes things up. So that's just something to be aware of. And it's usually a combination of the Ethernet drivers and the hypervisor. I'm doing the demo today on VirtualBox, and that works just fine. I'm using the VirtIO net driver. I haven't tested any of the other ones, but certainly the VirtIO net works just fine. So that's something else to look out for. I'm actually going to fire up my DevStack now. It takes about 3 minutes for everything to fire up. So let me just get that going while I'm still talking. So GTX. Okay. So I'll start that, and hopefully my machine won't grind to a halt. Okay. While I was doing that, yeah, no, that's fine. I got that. Oh, okay. Okay, so here's what the logical layout will look like. So I'm going to create these 4 networks here. So we have a demo 1, so that's tenant 1, and then we have a public network. It should really be called shared. I think shared is a better name. Shared network that all of the tenants can connect to. And then we've got demo 2, which is the tenant 2 network, and then we have what's called a private network here. And so these 2 virtual machines will be able to connect, connected to, well, you can see the connectivity there. So these 2 are privately connected through this network. All 3 VMs share this network and this network, and then this VM here is on a network all by itself. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess that's not that useful then. Okay. So that's what the logical layout looks like. Here's the local RCs that I use and the versions of software. So on the right-hand side, you can see the commit IDs for the various pieces of software there, so that you can reproduce this. You've got the host IP in the top left there. All of the services are enabled. There's some network information there. You can't see that very well? Right. So the presentation is actually available on SlideShare. So if you go to the OS Boston Meetup website, you can see my latest comment there has the link to the slide, so you can download the presentation from there. Okay, and then this is what Horizon looks like after the demo. So let me just check on that. Okay, it's almost there. Usually takes about 3 minutes to start up. I think we're very close. So I'll just, if you can bear with me for another 30 seconds, I think we should have it up and running. So it's just firing up the screens now.
So by default, if you run DevStack, you do not get Quantum.
Right, no.
You go and ask for actually follow-on stuff.
Exactly. You strictly have to ask for it. It's in the enabled services there. That enabled services line in the local RC is what turns Quantum on. And then also, you need, there's a few additional settings that you need. That's the main thing. There's a couple of additional settings you'll need as well, but you can see that online. Okay, so we've got the first, okay, so I actually didn't need to do that second one. Okay, so everything is up and running. I'm going to go, this is the quantum.sh script that I mentioned before.
I'm trying to make it easier to see.
Sure.
Are people running with the quantum? Are people
Sure. Yeah.
Will we have information for
Yeah.
That's
Did
not what I
everybody
meant
hear
to
that? So I guess Andy has just asked for comments from people. Oh, okay.
just as a question from
Oh, okay. So that's a great question. So I guess that's really for people on the call. Does anybody on the call want to comment about that?
Our line's on mute, so I don't. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, we'd like to use the back channel for that rather than keep our mic open.
Oh, okay, sure. Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you guys have people? Do you have customers on Quantum yet?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
For people, I understand there's a lot of information coming up quickly. But David is a Nicira guy. Nicira is kind of their reason for being.
Right.
And so I think, you know, especially with my doing the shared database thing, might give you a sense of this is short, but this is very fresh on this. But
yeah.
So I think the question was, whoever originally asked it was, you know, is it real? Is it here yet?
Yep.
And if you give a sense of, you know, without giving away the keep the kingdom there, how is quantum actually being used in the real world as just using it?
So, yeah, I have to be very careful here. Dan is probably the best person, Dan Winland, who leads this. I guess I would just say that it's absolutely still in production network, and I think I would leave it at that. And, yeah.
So quantum will get along and we'll get back because you get the quantum in the Nicira version, relies on local resources. OBS is a commercial product that has a lot of criteria for quantum. And other plugins for quantum and UCS, and I think you can also plug in for their version of OpenStack. But then there's all kinds of reasons like we want to get it and we need to think that there seems to be a lot of quantum really shows where OpenStack the virtual network service is really cool. And there's a lot of seems to be a lot of projects. For it's kind of not and we don't have settings and that mouse, that base of the mouse with just on an integrated project. So there's some that base of the mouse of OpenStack code to start and deprecate the functionality of the network and so on based on a project that still exists. But I see there's a reaching for the clock for the one
let's see.
Sorry for that.
Right, actually, so one thing I was going to add is that actually Quantum is going to be part of core involvement. So we just got promoted to core practice, which is, so we're out of integration. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it wasn't, the thing. Yeah, so that just happened, I think, a week or two ago. So, and certainly there's a lot of effort being spent on it and a lot of testing effort in particular. So, okay, so I'm just, up on the screen there, I have the part of the quantum.sh script. Can people actually read that online? Is that legible?
Well, can you make it any bigger somehow? You mean on the top window?
It's not a big deal. We don't have to. Oh, I can zoom in. Okay. How do I do that? I don't know if that is much. There you go. Thank you. That's great. So this is. So all I wanted to show you here is this particular function, create networks and create VMs. And so all we're doing is calling Nova manage here, and we're creating this public net, we're creating this demo 1 net, demo 2 net, and then down here we have the code to actually launch the instances, the VM instances with the quantum image. So when these instances come up, you can actually explicitly specify their NICs and what network they come up on, or if you just leave that blank, they will automatically get assigned interfaces on all of the public networks and then also on all of the networks that are part of, that are all the private tenant networks for their particular tenant. So that's all I wanted to show there. So now I'm going to start it off. And so that's just going to go through, it'll take about 30 seconds. It's going to set up those networks, spin up the VM, and then we'll be able to see those. So I'm just going to list the VMs now, so you can see here what the VMs are building in a couple of minutes. So one of them's gone active there. Okay, and now all three are active. And we can actually go to Horizon. 63. So we can take it in now. We can log in. We can go to our instances here. And there you see that all of our instances have come up. They're all running on the same host here. They're all running on GPO. And you can see the various networks that have come up between them. Yes, we'll have a look at into that with 11.0.0.32. So these are all of the interfaces. So 11.0.0.2. Oh, sorry. 3. And 4. So yeah, exactly. So what I'll do now is I'll go into one okay. Loading to that. This for the I can't see that. Okay, so you can't, oh, there it is. Okay, so it's a bit more of a delay there. Okay, so now if I do this config, you can see all of the network interfaces that have come up in a minute. Sorry. Oh, no, okay.
No, it's not a.
Okay.
Here's costing it back to here. Through cell servers.
So you can see all of these have come up, and I don't know how much time we want to spend, but I can see 11.0.0. Yeah, okay, so I should not be able to ping the 12 networks, that's right.
We lost the connection.
I'll keep going then. So we just did the single node. So here's the multi-node configuration. And let's see. So basically, you have your compute. Sorry, on the right-hand side you have your controller, and so I just have that in my development environment running everything, running all of the services. And then on the left-hand side you have the compute node. And all the compute node needs to run is the Nova network with Quantum Manager, and then Quantum Agent there. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so that's it. So that's the configuration there. And so, again, what happens is when you get these quantum agents are actually picking up the config from the centralized database there, and that's being configured by the quantum service here, which is taking commands in through the quantum API and then sending them out through a quantum plugin to wherever it has to go, in this case the database. So that's the multi-node config. There are a few patches that I've been working on for DevStack to make multi-node quantum work with stack.sh. They're minor, they're fairly minor patches, but still need to be done. So I'll hopefully have those, well, I will have those under submission next week, and they'll also be up on the Quantum Wiki if you're interested in that.
Are you aware of anybody working on check deployments for Quantum?
No, I haven't. And actually, that's one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. And if I had more time today, it would be, great. I'd love to talk to you guys more about that. That would be really good. So here are the local RCs for the multi-node deployment. So the controller nodes on the left, compute nodes on the right there, and the key thing there is really on the compute node, where you specify all of the hosts that are running remotely on the controller node at the top, and then you also specify which services. So CPU, scheduler, quantum, and then quantum agent there. And that's pretty much it. And then if you run the multi-node demo, I won't do that today, but if you run the multi-node demo, then log into Horizon, this is what you'll see. And the key point here is in the host column, you can see that have some instances running on GPO, and you have one of the instances running on Mustang. So you've actually, load balancing instances across the physical machines, which is really the goal. And this is just a summary of the tips and tricks. So DevStack, fantastic tool. DevStack tools.info.sh, that's also really useful for baselining your configuration. I'm working on the patches for DevStack for the multi-node, and then also for the images, the quantum images. That hopefully that quantum.sh script will be approved and merged soon. And then there's just that thing about, if you're using a plugin that requires VLANs and you're developing in a virtualized environment, just make sure that, your VLAN tags are getting through. I do. So I was developing on ESXi, a VMware ESXi, using their E1000 server. I'm sorry, E1000 drivers, which are the only ones that are available. And for some reason, I don't know why,
You need to, there's no one else.
No, I
used to make the port group.
I did.
And it's still?
I did, and it's still, I contacted the VMware support guys and I asked them about it, and they said the same thing. So the configuration was correct. I heard that there could be a bug there.
You were the one to try to install, no?
No, well, yeah. Oh, I thought you were serious. So, So yeah, so that's just, yeah. Hopefully, if there's a workaround, I'll find it. I have a couple of people that I need to talk to, but I haven't found one yet. So.
The question there is the biggest thing again, multiple equals 0.
Yeah. So there's this option within OpenStack to have multi-host. And to be honest, so Quantum doesn't currently support it. I haven't used it, so I believe that the multi-host option.
The multi-host was the special networking where you can run the Nova network.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that's what I would call.
Yep.
You can run the Nova network on each and every
compute node.
Yeah. And basically make them not fight. So every Nova network will always look at the LSS run, so it's only Nova compute.
Oh, okay.
Certainly, yeah, the router. Everything that's Nova
is very hard to hear.
If it's one, it will only have a of our own.
Got you. So it's kind of look like, so instead like the other architectures where you have a single network instance running and everybody talks to it and then it manages for the entire thing. And just, yeah, so I haven't used that. I believe we don't currently support that, but I'll be looking into what comes after.
I'm recording, so they can't hear us, but the recording can. Hi, recording.
Nova network capabilities. Are return that the work and the stuff of work and other work. If you have material on that.
Yeah, I don't have any insight into that. I know that we're pushing really hard to get feature parity. I can. Sorry. So the question was feature parity with current Nova networking. I don't have any quantitative information about that. I mean, I know Dan is a better person to ask that question, and I can certainly follow up and have a post to the list about that. But we're pushing hard for that, so I think we'll get there very soon. Okay, that's pretty much all that I had. So the presentation's online. If you're interested, it's on SlideShare. If you go to the meetup, awesome. If you have any problems, if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions, please, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to help out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.